Hey guys, in this tutorial we're going to be doing an eyeball dissection with no blood and guts. Boo! I know, but some people really can't take the squeamish stuff, but if you need to get that content and you are a student, or you need to get that content to a student because you're a teacher, then this video is for you. So we're going to hop in, we're going to do an eyeball dissection on a model. So let's go. All right, pupils. Okay, so in this model-based eyeball dissection, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the different parts of a model. So that would be anatomy and their function, or which is also known as physiology. But there's a couple things that we always look at. Is we look at the outside of the eye, and then we go through like a normal dissection. But in this particular case, because your eyeball is a sense organ and it's picking up information and sending it to the brain, then what we need to do is we need to look at the pathway that light travels to come into the eye, to get focused, and then to add on or land on the receptors for sight. Okay, so in all those things, what you're going to see is you're going to see light being processed by individual structures, that's the anatomy, and the physiology or their function in that process along the way. And then when we're all done, we'll see an image being interpreted by the brain and then acted upon as a stimulus and a response. Okay, let's go. All right, here's our no guts eyeball dissection. Basically, on the outside of the eyeball, you're going to be able to find 5 things. You have the cornea, which is that clear outer structure. We have the sclera, which is the tough white connective tissue part of the eye. We also see muscles around, and then we have the back of the eye, which is where the optic nerve is going to leave. And there would also be a lot of fat around here. So those are the 5 things we typically need to find on the outside. Looking through the cornea, we can also see the iris and the pupil. Now the cornea is a lens that focuses light. It's one of 2 structures that focus light in the eye. And so for this one, as we pop this off, before we do, we can actually see inside that there's another layer inside the sclera called the choroid. And the choroid layer is what's going to provide all of the resources for the retina, which is actually supposed to be right here. And we'll take a look on the inside. So the first thing we'll do when we pop this off is we see a cross-section of the eye. And the cross-section of the eye is going to show us that sclera, the tough connective tissue layer on the outside. It's also going to see the choroid layer, which is pretty much not visible ever. And then the retina, which will be coating the back of the eye. And then you can see where the optic nerve is. Now, in this area, we have these things called the ciliary bodies, which is a muscle that pulls on the lens. We'll get to, but that's basically all that good stuff. Okay, so with this stuff intact, we can see the cornea, and the cornea would be a lens that's focusing light as it comes through. I'll get rid of that. Then we have the iris. Now what's weird about this is the pupil doesn't exist. It looks black because there's no light behind it, but in fact it's just an opening in the iris. The iris is a muscle that's going to be restricting the amount of light that comes into the pupil by constricting or dilating this opening. Okay, there we go. We don't need that anymore. Behind that would be the lens. Now the lens can actually fatten or flatten out to focus on something that's farther away or up close, okay? So as the camera tries to focus on that, it's adjusting lenses inside of itself, and that's really what's going on inside of the eye. So the lens gets pulled on by those ciliary bodies that we talked about here, which are muscles that fatten or flatten it out, and that helps us focus, okay? So cornea does most of the focusing, and then the lens does the rest. This thing would normally be probably the grossest part of the normal dissection, which is the vitreous body. It's a jelly-like substance that keeps the eye in shape so that as the light comes into the eye, it actually can land on the back of the retina and the eye's not morphing and changing shape. This maintains what we call intraocular pressure, or pressure inside of the eye. So this is the vitreous body. The space that it's inside of is called the vitreous humor. So all these parts go back together to form the eye, and there you have it. No guts, no glory. All right, so I hope that lack of guts dissection was pretty cool and helped you out in whatever you're doing this year. I hope it helps you kick some class if you're a student or a teacher. But if you are at the point now where you're like, hey, I think I might be able to handle the real version, I'll put a link to that right up there. That's a full version with my commentary and explanation of the anatomy and physiology, very similar to what you just watched. But if you're a teacher and you want to level up your game and you say, hey, I want to do an eyeball dissection with my students, whether you're buying it from a biological supply company, or if you're in an area where there's hunters, a lot of times they might be able to get those for you after they're done harvesting an animal. It's sometimes a way where you can get those. But there's a tutorial that I've done on how to do the eyeball dissection, where you see all the basic parts pretty quickly. It takes maybe 10 minutes or so. And it's pretty simple to do. So I'll put that card up there if you're interested in that. Click on it. And I hope that this was helpful. Hope that you kick some class this year. And I will see you in the next video. I'm sorry.